Hi, everyone. Welcome to Privileged and Confidential. Today's guest is Amy Giggey-Burns. Amy Giggey-Burns started her career in nonprofits as a fundraiser, learning how to align people and their passions to direct impact. After earning her master's degree, it was a natural transition to move into the startup world. She fell in love with supporting entrepreneurs through HR and the Give First community that is Boulder, Colorado. Shout out Boulder. Adam Witzburg went there. In
Yeah.
2021, she founded Talent to Team with the mission of aligning and scaling talent strategy and operations with business strategy through state change, leadership changes, mergers, and acquisitions. In 2024, Talent to Team won Colorado's Companies to Watch as the team had scaled in number and clients. Amy lives in Colorado with her husband and 4 children. We are so excited to chat with you, Amy, today about all things HR, running a business, overcoming burnout, and running a home with 4 children.
Yeah, it's a treat. So where do you want to start?
Let's start with the company. So obviously you
Yeah.
have a passion for helping entrepreneurs, which is what led you to create the HR company. But really, what was it? What was the first thing that made you think, okay, I need to start my own company?
So it was never an intention. I left my role completely burned out, planning to find another full-time role, just needed time to interview and find the right role. I wanted to make sure I was finding the right company. And as I was interviewing, it was all very similar problems, same thing, different logo. And when in the meantime, I didn't have the ability to not make income. And so I had to be hustling. And I had really great friends who said, well, while you're looking, work with this client. They need your help. And so it would be different things. Some people needed onboarding, some people needed support with getting their ducks in a row with compliance purposes, and some it was a combination of all. But I started working with this one client and it was my favorite. And it was just an amazing client to start with because they were in a spot where everything was happening at once. So they needed to do a SOC 2 audit, which meant we've got to get all of our offer letters and our employee handbook and everything in order. And they had some cultural shifts and changes that were happening. And, oh, we might go, through an acquisition and we need to get ready for that. And then, we also need to do a compensation study. And so it was all the things at the same time. And it was really fun. Incredible, thoughtful founders, really deeply caring about their people. And so I fell in love. And from there, it just expanded. There were other people who were experiencing burnout in their HR careers. And so, come on board, let's do it together. There's something about that 1099 relationship that allows for more freedom and psychological safety and flexibility and those types of things. And honestly, I think we do our jobs as HR people better when we are fractional. So it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, the word fractional keeps coming up, and I think it's a growing thing. The contractor industry was something that was big, 10, 15 years ago, but it was very under the radar. Like companies would hire contractors, but maybe not as wouldn't publicize it as much. And now we are fractional general counsel for some clients. There's fractional CFOs. So I love
Yeah.
that push from your friend to say, hey, do you want to take on this client, led to this new business for you and giving you that freedom, because it not only gives the company the freedom, but it gives you freedom. So
Yeah.
how has owning your own company affected your lifestyle as a woman and as a mom?
Oh, that's so interesting. How has it affected my lifestyle? I mean, I think I do have some more flexibility. I'm still quite a workaholic. So,
Yeah.
I still will start my day down here and then bring my computer upstairs. And once my family goes to sleep, I'm just sitting in bed, kind of doing emails, which is hard. We talked about burnout, right? That's not sustainable. But I do feel like I have flexibility in terms of, I got to move kids around or someone's sick. My husband's in the military, and so he does not have as much flexibility as I do. But I did find it's hard for us both to have jobs at the same time. So we have family that steps in and they fly out and
It's awesome.
literally couldn't do it without them.
It's a tribe. I think that was one of the biggest realizations I had as a female entrepreneur. I literally was at my computer when I hit burnout and I was starting my own book of business, and I had this like realization that took over my body, and I went running to my husband and said, "Oh my goodness, I know why most men are CEOs, because they have help. They're not the ones writing the thank you cards. They're not planning birthday parties. They are not, buying gifts for people. And as women entrepreneurs, we feel this pressure to just do it all. Like, no, you can't. And getting help and a tribe, whatever it is, even if it's having your a neighbor on speed dial, or moving close to family, or having family that'll come fly in, it's so important. And I think it's unfortunate that more women don't talk about it. And I understand why, because having help could mean paid help, or having the blessing of family who are willing to help. So I understand, but it is an essential thing that I will say confidently, there is no successful female entrepreneur that is, making over $1 million a year, that is doing everything herself. It's not possible.
I agree. So I was in this group, or I still am. It's called Women's Presidents Organization. It's amazing. So I think it's nationwide. It's worldwide. But it was a chapter that I was in, and I remember first going, and my first meeting. I was married. This is to my first husband, and things were a little on the struggle bus, right? And so I was kind of mentioning some things. The second time I went, it's monthly. I was getting a divorce, and all of a sudden, all these women were like, here's what you need to do. And you're not supposed to give advice, but they told stories, and through stories you hear advice. And so one person said, and I'll never forget it, buy your way out of everything. So right now, like, you're the
Yes.
most precious resource, and you're not scalable. And so if it's an extra $5 to have the music teacher come to your house instead of taking your child there, spend it. Do Instacart, get basically, and my aunt and I continue to live by this. We'll be at the airport and we're like, oh, you have an upcharge because our bag's too heavy? Fine, I will pay it. I'm not moving stuff around. Um, so anyways, that has been so helpful for me. And then I ended up getting an au pair between the divorce and then meeting my new husband, moving here and having more support.
We had
That was
one too.
amazing too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Amazing.
things like that. And this is what I feel like you don't you don't see a lot of this on Instagram, or
Yeah.
the short clips, but in this longer form content where people are having real conversations, like, this is the secret to anyone. And it's not even just for women. If you are a parent and you're involved in your kids' lives, like, having help is so important, because it's not fair for just one parent only to be working and not having a relationship with their children either. So I
Yeah.
think, however it is, and thank you for sharing that little tidbit. That has been the
Mhm.
game changer for us, is when um, my husband and I basically sat down a couple years ago, and we were like, we need to change our lives. Like, we don't like the way we're living. We are basically broke. When we had good jobs, I was burning out, working 6 days at a big firm, and we're like, where's all our money going? So we actually decided we were going to we stopped drinking alcohol. We stopped going out as much. We prioritized, like, our home instead of vacations. And it was really a dramatic thing that we did. And now, like, it's 2 years later, 2 or 3 years later, looking back on all the changes that we made. And now we're like, okay, this is so fascinating to see how, if you make decisions to change your lives and spend your money differently, where we took that money that was spent on going out and all these things, and instead we invested in an au pair and in the home, how much
Mhm.
space that created for us to grow a firm. Because I had no idea we were going to start our own business, kind of like you, Amy. It was a very it wasn't something that I planned to do. I thought I was going to be a partner and build my own book of business in another firm, but then all of a
Yeah.
sudden things changed, and it was, the only reason was because we created space to have more help so we could focus on the company.
Good for you too. That's amazing.
So then, like, this totally relates to the conversation too, of substantively with HR, because as entrepreneurs, we still try to do everything. So yeah, we got the home in order, but if you're planning on running your company, growing your company as an entrepreneur, it's the same concept. Like, oh, I need to save as much money. I need to not spend money on expenses. But then it gets to the point, well, you trying to do HR yourself, how's that going? that's eating into your resources, and how much is that actually costing you a year by not doing it well?
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about like the importance of HR for small to mid-sized companies, and when is a good point to integrate HR if you are a small to mid-sized company?
Yeah. So I've been asking my team that what happens when you wait too long for HR? Give me stories. And we have so many stories, and it's really interesting because they vary from this was mildly inconvenient to, oh no, this was very significant risk to the business that could have potentially um, bankrupted us, right? So the risk totally varies based on how you're set up. What I see is there's a stage where companies come to us to set up, hey, I don't have offer letters, I don't have any agreements, I don't have context on what payroll systems I should use and how to set people up and how to start thinking about offers. So there's this kind of initial setup that a lot of companies do, and it could be pre-employees, pre-revenue, that type of a thing. But if you're a services-based business, maybe you're between 1 to 5 employees, and you're like, hey, get me set up, make sure that I can hire well. And then we're hourly and we don't have a minimum. So it's just call me when you need me, right? That's how that works. And then the second stage and the second state shift is probably when you're moving from, let's say, anywhere from 15 to 50 employees. That's
Mhm.
when, okay, we're no longer just me and a couple of people that I know really well. We're a company. And so people inside of the company will start asking for HR because they don't have someone to complain to, or they have questions. They want to make sure we're doing things right. And then the other part of it is the founder typically, or the CEO is, hey, I have a feeling that there's just this general sense of tension or challenge within the company, or I have a challenge with a leadership team member. They may not be the right fit for the organization, and I don't know how to move forward. That's kind of another big impetus that brings us in. Or you start to have a lot of turnover and you're not sure why. That's typically when people reach out and engage.
Pain.
Pain. It's
I
total
always
pain.
say, like for what we do, obviously it would be so much easier and less painful and less expensive if clients came to us early and we just like build up the protections as they go. But unfortunately, what ends up happening is like we'll have a call and then I'll tell them, okay, you've never spent any money on legal, you're going to have to start investing, or else one day you'll get in a lawsuit and then you'll be spending millions. You'll go from spending nothing to millions. And then we get the call, I was sued. You were right. Let's do this. So, how do you help proactively take in clients, and what is the first step that you do if a client engages you? Do you do some sort of an audit? Like what's your process?
Yeah, we typically do because we need to know what your policies are to be able to defend, number one, make sure they're compliant, and then also be able to implement them within your day-to-day life of the business. So there is that. But what you were saying too, you and I had this conversation because I'm building an M&A boot camp to support founders, CEOs to
Yep.
get ready to exit better. And you had this great point where you're like, when are we talking about IP? What are you selling if you don't own your own IP? Which is super important. And so when we onboard or when we're in the process of getting to know a company, a lot of what we talk about is begin with the end in mind. Where are we headed? What are we building?
Totally.
What's the goal? And we do a lot of M&A work both on both sides of the table, buy side and sell side. And so if you are building a company intentionally and you're building your incentive structures around that, you want to make sure if you're giving equity, for example, me as the employee needs to understand, okay, when's the exit and what do you think it will look like and what could this be worth to me for that compensation structure to work. So when we're onboarding, yeah, there's the tactical, the compliance. Do you have your ducks in a row? But there's also where are we headed and are we clear about that? And is the team aligned with that?
I really try to practice what we preach. Like we register ESCA's trademarks. I just did my name because there's a fake crypto influencer that uses my pictures in the Philippines. But with HR, a lot of it is we think we're great. We think everyone loves us and our employees love us. But what happens when something goes wrong? And I never want to get in a situation like that. So if people are interested in connecting with you and learning more about your services, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, so my email is amy@talenttoteam.com. My business is talenttoteam.com. Feel free to take a peek or reach out on LinkedIn. I have office hours. I can send you that link. So on Fridays between 9 and 11 Mountain Time, people can hop on. I love compensation. I really love talking about, because I feel like that's where rubber meets the road. And so we can use that time to look up compensation for a role you're considering, for a person that you have. It's a safe space for founders to come talk about the frustrations of being founders, or, any challenges they're having with their team. So those are good places to start.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah.
Amy, it was a pleasure. We will be reaching out.
Thanks for
Okay.
having me.
Thanks for coming on. Thanks, everyone. We're here every Thursday, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you next week. Bye.